Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I will be working on Gaussian elimination method for solving a set of linear equations. But just before we get started, if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, I want to encourage you to subscribe. Like the video, share the link with your friends. Thank you very much for your support. All right, let's get started. All right, to solve this problem, first we are going to extract the coefficient of the variables x, y, and z. Now take note of this. The first equation will be tagged as row 1. Okay, let's just use arrow to represent row 1. The second equation, row 2. And the third equation as row 3. And now the coefficient of x in row 1 is 1. Now, when you have just x, it means you have 1 attached. So the coefficient of y in row 1 is 2, while the coefficient of z in row 1 is -3. And in row 2, the coefficient of x is 2, and then the coefficient of y is -1. Okay, this is -1 here. And the coefficient of z is also -1. This is -1. And row 3, the coefficient of x is 3. The coefficient of y is +2. And the coefficient of z is +1. So we can put this in parentheses. Put this in parentheses times the variables x, y, and z, and we equate this to 3, 11, and -5. Good. So next we are going to write this in the matrix form. So this will become 1, 2, -3, and the whole of these variables we have over here. We just bring them closer. So bring it, the first one is 3, and then in row 2 we have 2, -1, -1, and this will become 11. And then in row 3 we have 3, we have 2, we have 1, and -5. So we can put the whole of this in parentheses. Put this in parentheses. And if you wish to demarcate, you just draw a straight line here. Good. So now the next task is to change this to 0, this to 0, and this to 0. So first, let's label the rows. This is row 1. This is row 2. And this is row 3. All right. Let's get rid of this. Now, because we have 1 here, we don't have to switch the row, because it's possible for us to switch the row. You can switch row 2 to row 1, row 3 to row 1, row 3 to row 2, but what is important is that ensure that the first number here is 1. It makes the work easier for you. Once that number is 1, then it's far easier to deal with. So because we have 1 here, we can simply go on with the concept. Okay, so to change this value to 0, simply we can multiply row 1 by the same number. So multiply this row 1 by 2. Okay, so once you have done that, subtract row 1 from row 2. So that means the first step would be row 2 minus 2 times row 1. Good. So that will give us exactly the next value for row 2, because we want this number to be changed to 0. So let's go on with the multiplication. So row 1 remains the same. Row 1 is still 1, 2, -3, and 3. But row 2 have to change. So use these 2 we have here to multiply this 1, and that will give us 2. So this 2 minus 2 will give us 0. So this is now 0. I hope that makes some sense. Okay. Also, use 2 to multiply these 2, and that would give us 4. So -1 minus 4, -1 minus 4. That is simply -5. So we now have -5 here. I hope that makes some sense. All right. Next, use this same 2 to multiply -3, and that will give us -6. Now, let's erase this from here first. So, -1 minus -6. That means -1 plus 6, and that would be +5. So this is now +5. Let's do that again. These 2 times -3 is -6. So -1, this one we have here, -1 minus -6 would give us -1 plus 6, and that is +5. That is what we have here. I hope that makes some sense. Okay, let's move on. All right. Next, use the 2 to multiply this 3 that we have here. Use it to multiply 3, and that would give us 6. So 11 minus 6 would give us 5. So here we have 5. So get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this, just clean up this. Okay, so we have successfully multiplied row 1 by 2, and then we subtracted from row 2, and that gave us the new set of values for row 2. Now we also want to change this value to 0. So to do that, we also need to multiply this value by the same number. So because we want to multiply by 3, we have to multiply the entire row by 3. Multiply the entire row by 3. So 3 times 1 would give us 3. Now, just before we continue, let's just write it here. Row 3 minus 3 times row 1. Good. All right. So 3 times 1 will give us 3. And then this 3 minus 3 times 1 would give us 0. So this is now 0. Get rid of this. Get rid of this. Okay. Next, 3 times 2 is 6. So this 2 minus 6 is negative 4. So here would be negative 4. I hope that makes some sense. Let's get rid of these values now. Let's get rid of this. Okay, so 3 times negative 3 will give us negative 9. So this 1 we have here in row 3. So 1 minus negative 9. That is the same thing as 1 plus 9. You know, negative times negative is positive. 1 plus 9, that is 10. Good. So here would be 10. I hope it makes some sense. All right. So let's get rid of this. Clean up this from here. Get rid of this. Get rid of this. Okay. So next, 3 times this 3 we have here. Times this 3. That will give us 9. So 11 minus 9. 3 times 3 is 9. Sorry, I circled the wrong one. So we are dealing with row 3. So this should be negative 5. So 3 times 3 is 9. So negative 5 minus 9 would give us negative 14. So this would be negative 14. All right. So get rid of this and just clean up this from here. And good. So we have all the values now. So let's quickly just put this in parentheses. Put this in parentheses. Remember, this is your row 1. This is row 2. And this is row 3. Okay, good. So we have a task here to change this to 0. But we can't multiply row 1 by 4 because this value that is already in 0 will automatically become a number greater than 0. So we can't multiply by row 1. Hence, we have to multiply by row 2. So we have negative 4 here and we have negative 5 here. And it is easier when this number is 1. Just multiply that by this 4 and it will be easier. So to change negative 5 to 1, we can divide 5 or multiply 5 by 1 over 5. Either you divide 5 by 5 or you multiply 5 by 1 over 5. So row 2 can be multiplied by 1 over 5 to help change this negative 5 to negative 1. Or multiply by negative 1 over 5 so that it can become positive 1. All right. So once we do that, then row 1 remains the same. Row 1 is still 1, 2, negative 3, and 3. So in row 2, we are multiplying by negative 1 over 5. So 0 times negative 1 over 5 would give us 0. Then negative 5 times negative 1 over 5. Negative 5 times negative 1 fifth. You know, negative 5 times negative 1 is positive 5 over 5, and that will give us 1. So this will just give us 1. Then negative 1 over 5 times this 5 would give us negative 1. Negative 1. Negative 1 over 5 times this 5 would give us also negative 1. Good. So now let's keep row 3 the same. We are getting closer to what we are looking for, and you can draw a straight line here, and then, you know, the previous one we didn't draw, but whether you draw it or not, it doesn't really matter, but let's just put it there. So now we can, this is still row 1, this is row 2, and this is row 3. Good. So we can now multiply row 2 by negative 4. Multiply it by negative 4. So if we multiply it by negative 4, and we can now subtract. So let's multiply row 2 by negative 4, and we can now have row 3 minus negative 4 arrow 2. Just row 3 minus, yeah, makes sense. That will give us 0 because this is negative 4. So if we multiply, okay, another way of doing it is fine. Let's go on with this. So multiply that. So negative 4 times 0 would give us 0. So 0. Okay, so before we do that, let's just bring the values of row 1. Row 1 is still the same. 1, 2, negative 3, and 3. Row 2 is 0, 1, negative 1, negative 1. Now we are on row 3. So row 3, we are going to multiply now. Negative 4 times 0 is 0, and 0 minus 0 is 0. So this is 0. So next, negative 4 times negative 1 will give us negative 4. And then this negative 4 we have here minus negative 4 would be negative 4. This negative will multiply this and we make it positive, and that will give us 0. So here will be 0. Good. So next, negative 4 times this 1 here will make it positive 4. And 10 minus 4 will give us 6. Here is 6. Good. And then negative 4 times negative 1 will give us 4. Positive 4. So negative 14 minus 4. Negative 14 minus 4 will give us, let's look at that again. Let's just clean up the whole of this. Good. So negative 4 times negative 1 will give us 4. So as in positive 4. So negative 14 minus positive 4 would give us negative 18. So we now have negative 18 over here. I hope it makes some sense. So now we can put this in parentheses, and then I'll just draw a straight line here. Good. So we have achieved our aim of changing this to 0, 0, and 0. So now we have to take it back to the systems of equation. So we have row 1 is this, row 2 is this, and row 3 is this. So this is 1. This one here simply means that the coefficient of x is 1, so you can simply write x. So this would be x, and this is 2. That means we have plus 2y, and this is negative 3, negative 3z, and this will be equals to 3. And for row 2, we have 0, so x is 0, that is out. So y is 1, so y minus z is equals negative 1. And then for the third row, x is 0, y is 0, and then we have just z, so 6z is equals to negative 18. All right, so now you can call this equation 1, and this is equation 2, and this is equation 3. So we begin with equation 3, looking for z. So 6z is equals negative 18, and then you divide both sides by 6, and divide both sides by 6. So 6 will just cancel 6 from here, and 6 divided by 6 is 1. Negative 18 divided by 6 is negative 3. So therefore z is equals to negative 3. Now we can substitute this value into equation 2. So equation 2, we have y minus, so in the place of z, you can put negative 3 there, equals to negative 1. This will become y plus 3 is equals to negative 1. Now subtract 3 from both sides, and y will be equals to negative 1, negative 3, and that will be equals to negative 4. So y is equals to negative 4. So you can see over here we have z to be negative 3. Here we have y to be negative 4. So we can now go back to equation 1 to find the value of x. So x plus 2. In the place of y, you can put negative 4. And then minus 3 in the place of z, you put negative 3. And then you equate these to 3. So this is equals to 3. So x, so 2 times negative 4 will give us negative 8. And negative 3 times negative 3 will give us positive 9 equals to 3. So negative 8 plus 9 will give us positive 1. So this will become x plus 1 is equals to 3. So now you can subtract 1 from both sides. Subtract 1 from both sides. So x will be equals to 3 minus 1, and x will be equals to 2. So this is the answer to this question. So we have x to be 2, and y is equals to negative 4, and z equals to negative 3. So this is the answer to this question, and I hope it makes some sense. So please, if you find this video useful, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Like the video, share the link with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe, please. Thank you very much for your time. I am looking forward to seeing you in our next video. Please do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.